Elena. Okay. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Mrs. Norian, would you lead us in the flag salute?
Certainly. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sunshine Law Statement. All requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been met for this meeting of the Board of Education of the Borough of Oradell. Notice of this meeting was filed with the Record and Town News and all persons requesting such notice. Mr. Darien, would you read the mission statement?
The Oradell Public School District is dedicated to the ongoing pursuit of educational excellence through comprehensive, innovative curriculum and instruction. The district is committed to providing opportunities for social, emotional, and academic discovery, to foster curiosity, courage, and character. Our goal is to prepare our students to become lifelong learners who are self-directed, resilient, productive, responsible citizens.
Thank you. Roll call.
Ms. Acosta?
Here.
Mrs. Negum?
Here.
Mrs. Downing?
Here.
Mr. Griffin? Mrs. Norian?
Here.
Mrs. Walker?
Here.
Mr. Walsh?
Here.
Mr. Darien?
Here.
Mrs. Nichols?
Here. Open to the public for agenda items only. Not seeing, we'll move forward. I want to remind everyone we have the 4th of July parade coming up Wednesday. Is everyone?
Wednesday?
Tuesday. Who is marching? Do we know right now? Or who is not marching? So
Not marching.
Are you marching? 1, 2, 3. Are you marching? Marching? Okay. So buy your candy, get your shirts, get ready. Are you writing what I'm saying? All right. This is a sad night for us because Mr. Marmora is leaving us. We're very sad about this, Mr. Marmora. We wanted to thank you for everything you've done for us. It has been a pleasure working with you. You kept our books in magnificent shape, and we want to wish you good luck in your career. We knew we weren't going to keep you long, but we are grateful for the time you gave us when you were here, and we do wish you good luck. And I don't know if anyone else would like to say anything.
John, as the chair of Buildings and Grounds, I'm sure I made your life miserable at times. We stack projects on top of projects on top of projects, and I'm always asking where we're at with this and where we're at with that. So, and this is in addition to all the finances that the job entails. So, you know, I'll miss you, and I wish you good luck. Thank you.
Mrs. Walker?
I'll call you Jay too. That's your nickname. But no, John, you've always been so accommodating. Anytime I've emailed or called you, you've been able to help me. And just your whole sense of personality and dedication. So I thank you for that. We're going to miss you, John. Great.
I would also like to say that I appreciated your professionalism and how you handled everything with all the board members. You never lost your cool on anything. Even though we kind of pushed you to the wall on a few things, I think. But I will miss your sense of humor. I will miss your gentleness. And I'll miss your brain, because it was nice having somebody that made things make sense. Thank you.
And I second, you're very professional always. We really appreciate it. And when you leave, you can look at this beautiful room. This was something that you two went through, and it was a learning experience, and I'm sure you'll do it again, but it was a big project, and we thank both of you for it because it came out beautifully.
This was the second auditorium, is that right? And the better of the two, I'm sure.
John, I want to say thank you for your effort. And I was always hoping that I'd have a business administrator that would stay in Oradell longer than me. Because
Oh, come on.
I'm getting ready to retire, and I was just hoping that at least I knew who the business administrator was when I went out. We did have some sort of a plan for when I did pick the date, and but I'm gonna miss you. I'm gonna miss your family, a great family. The kids were great. They loved the parade,
Yeah, we're gonna miss them.
and once in a while you pass Oradell. You just gotta go past Emerson, come into Oradell just to see if anything is new.
He's right up the road. We can still haunt them.
Yeah.
We'll still be haunting you. All
But
right.
thanks a lot.
Yes.
Thank you.
That is all I have. I'll turn it to the superintendent. Oh, let me say one last thing. I was at graduation this week. I haven't been in graduation in a long time, and I thought it was lovely. I think the children had a good time, so many of them in their nice outfits, but I thought it was a lovely ceremony. I think the parents liked it. I heard it was a great success at the Rockley afterwards, right? Everyone, and the spring fling was good?
Oh, yes.
I'm sure it was
There's a lot-
rocking.
A lot of festivities in,
Yeah, we know,
a week.
but yeah, good job.
I think she just took most of my superintendent report. It's been a busy 2 weeks at Oradell Public, and I would actually start with the awards ceremony. And as we speak about this room, I had a little bit of a moment that I forgot what life used to be like at Oradell Public. We were sitting in this room, and Mrs. Acosta was over there, and I was in that back corner, which is actually very hot, never stand there. And I texted our supervisor of buildings and grounds, and I said, it's a little hot. And he's like, Megan, it's 70 degrees. And I forgot back to the days when awards used to be in here at 9:30 in the morning. It went 2 hours, and everyone was sweating during the entire time. So we have truly come very far. We just sometimes take that for granted a little bit. What I love about our awards ceremony, and I always encourage the board to come to it, is it is entirely student-run. So our students announce the different speakers, they give the memory speeches, they play music during it, and that is something that I love because it gives students who might not have had a chance to shine during their time at Oradell Public a chance to shine. And we did name one of our awards after Sergeant David Salinas this year, so his parents were here to see us hand off that award. Our Social Studies Award is actually named after Mr. Carter now. So Mrs. Carter does come to watch that also. Junior Women's Club was here, Book and Needle was here. It really is a community event. And the morning of awards, I received a phone call. And it shared about 2 sixth graders and what they had done that weekend. So then we gave a spontaneous award, and the poor child that had to announce this was like, I would say something about this award, but I just learned about it 20 minutes ago. And we gave that award to 2 sixth graders who, over the previous weekend, there had been an Eagle Scout collection project. And these 2 sixth graders, one of them had sold things during the townwide yard sale. He took all of his proceeds and donated it to that Eagle Scout project. And another one went into his own savings and took all of his chore money and donated it to that Eagle Scout project. And that was something that we felt should be recognized as we consistently talk about being a community that serves and gives to the community. So we recognized those 2 sixth graders spontaneously. And then from there, yes, we did go off to the Spring Fling, and as many of you know, the Spring Fling's not my favorite event. It's a lot. We don't park in a center parking lot for 2 days, but it really is a wonderful night, and the kids do love it so much. And what I love is it reminds us that 6th graders, they're so grown up in some ways, and they want to wear the coolest clothes and show up in the right outfit. Yet when the ice cream truck comes, they all run to it like they're still kindergartners. And literally, we were holding them back from getting to the ice cream truck. And from there, we did go to commencement, and Mrs. Hawley did an amazing job at commencement. I do not think you can truly appreciate how much pressure we put on ourselves to run a traditional Oradell Public School commencement. To the extent that I went out during practice and I told them that, I was told by a board member, you don't know how to shake hands, so you're all going to get better at that, Mrs. Walker. I took that feedback from last year, and Mrs. Nichols will tell you everyone looked her in the eye and shook hands. And yes. Yes.
Right.
Stop, turn. And we forget how nervous they are when they're 12. And they get so nervous, they get the fake diploma, and then they just want to run. And then we stepped up. And again, that's become an Oradell Public School tradition to be able to move 700 students to their class for next year. And we have had very little phone calls from parents asking for any changes, and we saw a lot of happy students leaving. We were also very lucky that one of our new teachers for next year, who's not currently on our roll this year, was able to be there. So even those students got to meet their teacher. And then before we could even take a breath, it was exploration. So we started our explorations program on Monday, along with our extended school year program for our special education students. All the World's a Stage started their program in this space, and the rec program started their program in the MPRs, the science lab, and the music room. So what does that mean? It rained. And everyone had to get in this building in the middle of the rain, but I am happy to report that all of those programs are running incredibly smoothly. I have seen improvements in the rec program from last year. It's more structured, and I'm incredibly happy, as I've always shared. It doesn't matter that it's the summer. Those are our students, and it is my job to make sure that they are safe, even if they are not in an Oradell Public School program. So we are working collaboratively with them, and I'm excited for the rest of the summer to continue, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Mr. Marmora?
Thank you. Since Mr. Griffin's not in, I'll just go over a couple of the finance items that are on tonight's agenda. So D6 and D7 are year-end resolutions that we have, and what this is just approving is if there's any anticipated excess revenues or unexpended appropriations, that we're able to deposit them into our reserve accounts, which are our two main reserve accounts, the capital reserve, and then D7 is for maintenance reserve. And D8 is also one of our year-end resolutions. And what this is required by law, just to have a list, and that's the attachment, a list of all the vendors that we either believe or anticipate or currently have contracts with. And that includes any kind of goods and services, bids, professional and extraordinary services. And then on a personal note, since tonight is my last board meeting, it is a bittersweet moment for me. I'm excited to start a new chapter in my career, but at the same time, very sad to leave Oradell. It came up very unexpectedly, and I'm still processing it a little bit. I'm very proud of all that we've been able to accomplish together, especially during the unfamiliar times of my tenure here. One of the principles that I try to live my life by is to paraphrase Ralph Waldo Emerson is to try to leave this world a little better than you found it. So hopefully I've done that. And I just like to try to thank a couple people. I'm very bad at this. I hope I don't forget anybody, but they know, I'm thinking about them. So first and foremost, just thanks to Mrs. Bozius. Thank you very much for your partnership and just including me in everything. And I felt we were a great team, and I'm going to miss working with you.
Going to miss somebody calling him John.
Yeah. Yep. I'll also miss our past superintendents, too, that I had worked with. And just a big thank you to the OPS staff. I see Mr. Butcher back there. Thanks to all the teachers, the aides, custodians, secretaries, child study team, and especially the central office staff for their camaraderie and hard work that sometimes doesn't get recognized. A lot of it's behind the scenes, and some people might not even know they're back there, but they're working hard for the students as well. Of course, thank you to the board members, past and present. You took a chance on me, an assistant business administrator from Nutley. This is my first business administrator position, and it's something that I'll forever be grateful for you because you've had faith in me and you encouraged me, and I've always felt supported by the board. So thank you, sincerely. And finally, of course, my family. I have to thank them for their patience and just their support also. Sometimes, we're here later, working different hours. They've always been supportive of me, and I couldn't have done it without support from home, so thanks to my family. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, John. Mrs. Walker? Turn your mic on. Turn your mic on. If it's questions on finance, we'll do it when we get to the
That's
section.
my question.
Yeah, because I have one too. Okay, moving to minutes, we have review of June 14th. Any questions or comments? Please email Mr. Marmora or Ms. Bozios. And we have approval of the May 24th minutes. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes of May 24th.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Walker. Any questions? Call the question.
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Negum?
Yes.
Mrs. Downey?
Yes.
Mrs. Norian?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Darian?
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols?
Yes, we'll move to committee reports. Mr. Darian, would you take administrative?
Yes, I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce item, and I don't see it on my agenda, so what are we talking about?
A1 through A3.
Oh, I see. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce items A1 through A3.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Walsh. Any questions? Call the question.
Mrs. Acosta?
Yes.
Mrs. Negum?
Yes.
Mrs. Downey?
Yes.
Mrs. Norian?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Darian?
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols?
Yes, buildings and grounds, Mr. Darian.
Yes, we have one item on the agenda this evening, but before I mention that, I'd like to just let everyone know that at the last board meeting, I said we were going to have some projects this summer, and the summer's here, and we've already made progress. So if you get a chance, you can look on Center Street. We're starting our landscape project there. Mostly now it's deconstruction, but eventually we'll be putting landscaping back in place. So we're starting already. And also in the hallways, we are removing the old landings on the stairs, and we're replacing them with new, and that project is already started. So with that, I'll introduce items B1.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Walsh. Any questions? Call the question.
Mrs. Acosta?
Yes.
Mrs. Negum?
Yes.
Mrs. Downey?
Yes.
Mrs. Norian?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Darian?
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols?
Yes, just a point for the minutes. Could you add a roll call line in the second line? Okay. Curriculum, Mrs. Negum.
Nothing to report today.
Finance, Mr. Griffin is not here. Mr. Darian, you want to take that?
Sure. I'd like to introduce items D1 through, I believe we're up to D20.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Walsh. I know, Mrs. Walker, you had a question?
Yes, I did. On D7, that Mr. Marmora had referred to, the transfer into the maintenance, the approximate 200,000, that's a lot of money. Now, where did that come from?
Can I explain this?
Oh, sure.
Because I actually had a question on this
Yes.
also. So these transfers into the capital reserve, and that they're not set. We have no idea what it's going to be. We just put very high amounts because we don't know how the year-end reserves are going to come out, and after the audit, we set them. Because in the past, they've been too low, and we needed to put more in. So they're not set. When we get the final number, we do approve the final number, right, with the audit or whatever?
Yes. Yeah, you'd rather be high
You-
and coming
'cause we
low than
can't
to...
go back.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. And then the other one, thank you for that. On D9, the Capital One Bank, was the appointed bank that approved for the deposit of Oradell Board of Education. How did you pick that bank? I don't remember it from last year, not that it matters, but how do you pick a bank?
So you could award a bank through an RFP process, but we've had a longstanding history with Capital One, so we've had no reason to change right now, so we just renewed them.
Okay.
How long have we been with them? That you know of?
At least 10 years?
Yes,
Yeah.
they were here when you got here, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yep.
See, the thing I'm asking is, in Rotary, they've switched banks because the bank gives us better deals going from one bank to the other as far as interest or whatever you're talking about. So maybe next year it might behoove you to, or whomever is business administrator, to look into having, checking the banks for what they can offer us.
We actually did look into rates this year for our, just to drop into like CDs and whatnot. We did go out and look for it for finance. I don't think we've done anything yet, but we have, right?
Yes.
I have a question on the maintenance reserve. What's the max that can be held in the account at year end?
So for us, it's 4% of whatever the total cost of our long-range facility plan is. It's between $400,000 and $500,000.
And what's in there now?
Or actually, no, you know what, it's 643,000.
Okay, so-
643,000, that's our,
So what's in there now?
right now,
Around.
I'd have to check, but we're probably about around 400 to 500,000.
Okay, so
that's
you don't
in
think
there.
we should up this 200 to max it
No,
out?
the 200 will put us over the max.
Definitely?
Yeah.
Even at year end with our
Yes.
numbers? Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I have to look at all this again.
I would like a comment on D20.
I was just gonna, I'm just gonna say something, go ahead.
Yeah, $20,000 for Lincoln. And I remember, I think we started out at 9 or 10,000. The CEO of Lincoln made a presentation to us when they were first in the marketplace needing business, and it was nice to be at those rates, but while this is a lofty amount, we do rely on them quite a bit, and they provide us with a lot of data that's very critical in our managing our instruction with our students. So it is a decrease? Really? Good.
Why? Did we get rid of a module?
No, last year we added a module, so you saw a heightened increase. When adding a new module, we also add professional development for that specific module. And we no longer need that professional
Oh, I see.
development, so it is a $2,000 decrease, I think, from last year.
Do we know how it compares to what our rate would have been last year if we didn't add that module with professional development?
There was, the professional development, I know, went up $500 a day, so even though we decreased, we are still paying a larger cost there. The reports did not go up in cost, but there was one, remember, we're now also using the intervention manager to track the modifications we're doing for students and the success of them, and that actually did go up.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I have,
Mrs. Acosta?
D15, the special education programs, is this, what does it mean? Is it students not in OPS?
Yes.
Okay.
What's the total? Do you know, did anyone add this up? Do you know what the total is, John, on these?
It's 1.2.
1.2 million, I think.
Yeah. Is this normal for us, or is it more this year? It seems like there's an awfully,
It's about the same.
We're around the same. We're always up there.
We decreased one student, so we went from 13 to 12 students. However, some tuitions did increase. And as we always say, that we have no say in private school tuitions.
Right.
Would you say the total was?
It's just over,
Approximately.
it's just over 1.2 million.
Mrs. Negum?
Yeah, I just had a question on 17, 18, and 19. Can you please remind me what the Dreambox formative and panorama education is being used for?
Those are educational platforms that we use. So Dreambox is used for students in grades kindergarten through 6th grade on math. It's the equivalent of IXL previously. We had moved to Dreambox because it was more adaptive. So if students were at a higher level and were in 1st grade, it was allowing them to keep going. It didn't max them out on 1st grade standards. Panorama is our social emotional. It's when we asked the students in the beginning of this year and we decided the grit theme, and we identified areas that our students could grow in social and emotional areas. And Formative is an assessment platform. So say a teacher teaches a lesson and wants to get really quick data, they can create an assessment and the students can answer it in Formative, and it immediately gives them data back.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Call the question?
Mrs. Acosta?
Yes.
Mrs. Negum?
Yes.
Mrs. Downey?
Yeah.
Mrs. Norian?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Darian?
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols?
Yes. Delegate report, Mr. Walsh?
I have nothing to report. We haven't had a legislative meeting and we just had the delegates assembly, so I have nothing. I guess they're taking a break.
Maybe for the summer. Personnel, Mrs. Walker.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to present F1.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Walsh. Any questions? I think I had a question here I forgot to call. Hold on. Okay, I had a question, sorry. I meant to email last week and I forgot. The last page, 10A and B. We're revising last year. I think it's confusing the way it's written. So if I go to B, the board reappoints the following tenured staff. Locally funded, federally funded total. So are we doing this again just to show the breakdown? Okay, so that's what I thought. So I think we need to probably put it in the same format for A, the page before, because I found it confusing. And I apologize because I was going to call on this. Are we saying the same thing here? Because kind of we're showing 24 and a half hours, 8,737. I'm assuming it's the same.
It's different pots, right?
Is it the same issue or no?
It's both ARP ESSER funding, so we're showing that those salaries were paid for with American Rescue Plan funding. However, when we get the American Rescue Plan, it's in like pots of money, right? And so one pot is learning and another pot is mental health. So the school counselor salary is coming out of the mental health pot, where the instructional aides salary is coming out of a different
Right.
pot of money.
No, this is my question, though.
Yeah.
So I think it's confusing because we're basically on the last page, we're saying, the total salary is 64, 11 is coming from that, 53 is locally funded. Here, we're showing 24 hours a week, and our whole salary is 8737.
Because their whole salary came out of the funding. So we can change the wording underneath it.
So for the 24 and a half hour aid, it's 8737 for the entire year, nothing else?
Oh, it is a portion. Okay.
I don't think it matters that much. I think it's confusing, though, because it makes it look like this person
Doesn't
at
sound
24 and a
like
half
enough.
hours is 8,700, 12.2 hours, they're making more. But I think there should be another thing, like
below
locally
it.
funded,
Okay.
or, I don't know, just to make it clear, because it just was confusing, I thought. Just like the
I
second
think
page.
that's a pretty easy change.
Yeah, so when we approve the minutes, we're going to approve it with the locally funded piece like we do on the last page, to make it clear. Any other questions?
Now,
Mrs.
just
Walker.
the ESSER funds, we're still getting them? This is crazy.
We're not still getting them. We had a period of time to use them. So we have used up the first two installments, if you will. This is just the third installment, and we have until June 2024 to finish using this amount of money.
And we're getting close then.
Yes.
It's amazing.
It's really, kudos to our Director of Curriculum, because the amount of paperwork that goes with these grants is quite, it's amazing, frankly,
can
and how you have to
imagine.
write them to make sure that it hits the specific pot of money.
Because it's very limited to where it can be appropriated.
Any other questions? Call the question?
Mrs. Acosta?
Yes.
Mrs. Negum?
Yes.
Mrs. Downing?
Yes.
Mrs. Norian?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Darian?
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols?
Yes. Policy, Mrs. Norian?
Yes, I'd like to present G1.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Walsh. Any questions?
I had not received any comments or questions from
I didn't either.
anybody, so
Call the question?
Mrs. Acosta?
Yes.
Mrs. Negum?
Yes.
Mrs. Downing?
Yes.
Mrs. Norian?
yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Darian?
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols?
Yes. Public Relations, Mrs. Acosta? I don't think you've met yet, right? Not, you haven't met recently, okay.
No, I have nothing to report.
You could give us a report on the Rockley. If you remember any of it, no. Okay, and moving on, COVID Task Force, we said next meeting it'll be off the agenda, so that'll be it for COVID on our agenda, hopefully forever. At this time, we will open to the public for comment. There's not that many people. We usually limit to 3 minutes per person. We will comment after, if any comments are necessary from the board, we will comment generally after everyone has spoken. Just please speak your name and sign our book. And turn on the mic.
Hi, this is Councilman Kern, liaison to the board. Nice to meet you all. My question is in regards to the previous meeting. That was question F with regards to the new business administrator. I know that there were some rumors and some complaints from residents, so I just wanted to give you the chance, to just elaborate on the requisition process and the interview process that you guys performed.
So we'll probably comment on it at the end, but we thank you for coming. We're
Sure.
happy to meet our council liaison.
Sure.
Come to more meetings.
Okay.
Do you want anything to say anything else? Right? You can come back at the end also, but do you want to say anything else? Right?
That's it. Yeah, I mean, this is only for public comment for,
Public comment for anything you want,
yeah.
but we will respond after if we feel it's necessary. We listen to all the comments.
Okay.
So please
all right.
stay.
That's it. Nice to see you all.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Yes, we're ringing.
Testing, 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 testing. How's that?
Any other public comments? Can you just put your name in the book so we
Sure
have it
thing.
for our minutes?
My name is John Falcone, and I'm sorry I couldn't hear because of the feedback. You said there'd be a comment at the closing of tonight's meeting?
So generally, this is just public comment by the public. It's generally not a discussion back and forth, but we know there's concern, so after everyone has commented, if we feel the need to comment, we will.
Will that be at tonight's meeting? Will
Yeah,
that-
yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
Okay, thank you. So, as you said, I guess you're not going to answer specific questions. Tell you right now, I'm a little disappointed there's not a big turnout from the general populace, residents of this town. Just for full disclosure, I don't have children in the school, but I live here. I went to the school myself. I believe everyone deserves a second chance. I believe it has to be in certain context. Violence against children is unacceptable. I'm pretty disappointed in this Board of Education, not just based upon the hire, but how that hire was conducted. I think, unfortunately, there's a rust in this town. It's gotten to the point that citizens have become complacent. It's gotten to the point that elected officials think they can act how they want, conduct themselves how they want, conduct searches how they want. think it's a matter of public record at this point that there's a personnel committee. And unfortunately, the chair of that personnel committee wasn't able to interview the candidate. Unfortunately, Mr. Darian, you told Mr. Walsh that the board would meet the candidate when he was hired. So, it's unfortunate that people that say they are here for the best interest of the children of the school district, it's unfortunate that people that really have sworn an oath to look out for the best interest of the school district have failed. I know not all of you were here at the last meeting to vote. I know 2 of you voted no. Those that voted yes should seriously consider what you're doing, what you serve, and should seriously consider resigning. Because I think it's disgraceful that people say they are putting children first, that care about children, would hire somebody that unfortunately, I can't judge a person, I can't put myself in another person's shoes, but would you feel comfortable finding out that somebody hired a candidate for a role where they would be exposed to children with a history of violence against minors? A poor decision? Again, I'm very disappointed. I think you all should think long and hard about the decision you made. I think you should think long and hard and very carefully about the response that you make to the public. Because yes, only a few people are here tonight, and we know how people are. They're keyboard warriors. They comment online. They send text messages saying, you should ask, you should say, you should push for. It's easy to have somebody else do it. But the one thing where people don't have to worry about someone being over their shoulder on a pickup line or at a social event is in an election booth in November. That's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
I know your name, but please
Hello,
state
Board.
it.
Mike Gardner, Margraf Court. It goes with this hiring process. Approximately 12 years ago, we went through the same, not we, I was a member of the board at that time. We hired a business administrator, and the process that was utilized was they were interviewed by the superintendent and the 3-member panel of the personnel committee, and I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kathy Norton was on that committee at that time. They interviewed, and they came up with 2 candidates, sometimes 3. At that time, we had 3 candidates. Just, prior to the board meeting, I believe it was 45 minutes ahead of time, each candidate was given 15 minutes, and they were presented to the full board downstairs, where if anybody had any question, it wasn't a full-blown interview by the full board, but if they had any questions or concerns, the full board had an opportunity to meet and ask questions of the candidate, and then the board would make a decision. I would just like to know if we utilize that process, and if not that, then utilize that process, why not? Because it did work in the past, and it seems like something's broken. I mean, I have no comments whatsoever regarding the candidates. It's not fair to do that, but I'm just basically going on just the process. That's the process that was used, I believe, 12 years ago. I may be off a year or 2, but that's a process that was used with the prior hiring of a business administrator, and it worked then. You know, I would like to see why not keep using it if we didn't use it. That's all.
Thank you for coming.
Jen Allen, Wildwood Road. I'm here tonight not only as a concerned resident and parent, but also as a passionate educator and consultant. Next year, I will have both a kindergartner and first grader here at OPS, and as every parent does, I want the best for them. Reading is not a natural process. Speaking to a child typically ensures that they learn to talk, but reading alone to a child does not yield a fluent reader in that same way. Instead, reading requires explicit, structured, sequential, systematic, and cumulative instruction. This instruction builds connections between certain areas of the brain, connections that are essential to reading. There is some of this instruction happening at OPS with foundations in K and 1, but it falls very short, and there's competing instruction that's happening simultaneously, which confuses our kids and is not supporting what we know about how the brain works. I've had conversations with many OPS parents, some that are educators and some that are not, about reading. I have had parents seek me out for advice. I've seen tutors at our library when I go weekly, tutoring kids reading from all ages. I speak to parents not understanding why their child is behind that infamous letter that their teacher says that their child must get to according to the Fountas and Pinnell leveled system, and why maybe come 3rd, 4th, and 5th grader, their child that was presumably a grade level reader in K-2 is now struggling. Well, we know why. We've known for years. Don't let decent ELA scores fool you as to how our kids have gotten here, and that not just a new math curriculum is needed in this school. The science of reading is far more than phonics. The term defines more than 5 decades of research about how we learn to read and how our brain actually works. This research comes from hundreds and thousands of experts in the fields of education, linguistics, psychology, neurology, and beyond. This research conclusively provided a deeper understanding of the skills that are involved in learning to read and how the brain actually works to process written language. This research helped develop best practices for teaching so that every child can learn to read proficiently. But unfortunately, many of those practices are missing here at OPS. If these practices that we know are effective were part of the core curriculum for all of our students, far fewer students, less than 5%, would be struggling. I'm forever grateful when I chose education that I started in a special education route, because this was the basis of my program for teacher development, but it's not for most teachers. Some of this research dates back to the 90s. While the Sold a Story podcast brought this to many non-educators' attention, the National Reading Panel concluded in 2000 in their final report that there are 5 essential components of reading: phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension that must all be explicitly taught. And the 5 components should last all the way through elementary years, not 2 years of this and 2 years of that. Over the past 3 to 5 years, schools around the country have been making changes to curriculum, pedagogy, and teacher professional development to align to the science of reading. So why not here at OPS? The Teachers College reading and writing curriculum is not based on the science of reading. It's not enough to supplement with foundations in only lower elementary grades. It's no longer appropriate to look at leveled text as benchmarks for our kids, especially in those beginning readers. TC itself has revised their units of study over the past 2 years to attempt to prevent a mass exodus from their curriculum and consultants, and I've worked with them personally and professionally. They've rewritten their curriculum, but it still has major shortcomings. Their first phonics reader in their Jump Rope series starts with an AM welded sound. Well, the sound is a voiced nasal sound that distorts the A. It doesn't begin in beginning instruction. I received a paper sent home with my child identifying her letter in June, and not to knock my kindergarten teacher because she was a gift to me and my child, and I love her in every way, but a D level is not an indication of a grade level reader. Kindergartners have not been taught vowel teams or R-controlled vowels. They haven't been taught how to divide multisyllabic words yet. Yes, some can use pictures and some can use context, but that is not the brain reading. It promotes guessing, and it promotes things we don't want our kids to be a part of. Repetition in those A's, B's, and C readers isn't what teaches kids to read. They don't learn those words to use them to a new book, or to be able to spell them, or to read them in isolation. Leveled books don't support beginning readers. decodable, controlled text, aligned to a phonics program, supports beginning readers. I hate complaints without solutions. I'm a school administrator, but there are many solutions. You can see them being implemented across our country, including some of the largest education school systems, and done quickly because they know they've failed kids for years. Foundation should be implemented through grade 3, and there are several research-based decoding and encoding programs that go through the upper grades. These should too be implemented. Haggerty phonemic awareness should span 3K through grade 2 as a core program, not just for struggling students in intervention. There is an intervention program through 3 to 5. As we know, according to brain research, there are skills in phonemic awareness that shouldn't be mastered until 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. Continue to utilize aspects or TC or not. I'm not going to knock it. There are many amazing things to come out of it. But we must consider how we will teach all 5 pillars across the elementary grades. Provide teacher professional development through language essentials for teachers of reading and spelling, or LETRS as it's known, which has become a gold standard for teaching the science of reading. Utilize a different assessment tool, abandon Fountas and Pinnell or the TC leveling system, at least through levels A through K, because it doesn't indicate what type of reader our kids are or correlate to any type of grade level. And lastly, fill our classrooms, especially in K-2, with decodable text. When you know better, you do better. The world knows far more about teaching reading now, and it's time for a change. Literacy is the foundation for all learning, and our kids deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Should have got that September.
So my name is Heather Goggins, and I live on Woodland Avenue. I had a lot of concerns similar to your concerns. But I would like to just say that I think it would be great if we could have a forum for parents to, my concerns lie with using the Readers and Writers Workshop, as well as using the foundations as a supplement. I think it would be great if we could get a forum so that all of our concerns could be addressed as parents and as a school board and as administrators. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other public comments? Okay, so I think I will address some of the questions. First, I would like to say to Mr. Kern and to Mr. Falcone and to Mr. Gardner, we really appreciate you coming to our meeting and speaking with us.
Because it's a long-standing joke on how we don't have individuals in the audience.
We never have anybody here,
And we say that
except you. Yes, you come.
it's because we do a decent job and no one shows, and we never get thanks. So we're just happy that someone is here.
So I appreciate the 3 of you coming and actually speaking directly to us about the issue, so we can actually, I'm losing my train of thought, so we can address it and not just, we always say the parents stand on the sidewalk and complain, but nobody ever comes to us. So we do appreciate you coming. I think I want to start with maybe the role of the board versus the role of the council, and I'm going to ask you a question, actually. And I think there's a big misperception of the role of a board of education versus the role of, let's say, mayor and council. So it is my understanding that the role of mayor and council, and I think this is true, is you basically run the town, I would say, right? I mean, you hire people to run it.
The mayor and council is the governing board of the town, that's correct.
Right, and you do all the hiring, or you have other people hire? Like, how is that, does that work?
Our administrative committee hires individuals within the borough with regards to employment, and then that comes before mayor and council has a resolution, and then we approve or deny that
Okay.
actual resolution.
Okay, I think the mayor and council seem to have more power within the town than the board has in schools. So, just for everyone's knowledge, the board's role as a board of education, we basically have two jobs. The first job is to hire the superintendent. That is our only direct hire. The second job we have is to set policy, and then to ensure that policy is being followed through the school. Those are our two jobs. Catherine, you've been here a long time, would you add anything to that, or?
No, absolutely, that breaks it down into the smallest
Okay,
part.
so those are our two jobs. We do not hire the business administrator, we do not hire the principals, we do not hire. It is the superintendent's role to hire those people. The superintendent, so for the past few, I don't know, 3 or 4 business administrators, and I know Mr. Gardner said personnel, but I think it was finance, the superintendent has always allowed the finance committee to interview the BAs. That's who interviews the BAs. We do the final round, and it is with the permission of the superintendent we are allowed to interview the BA. So before I get into more of that, I am going to ask the superintendent a few questions, because I did see some questions came up. One question we saw was that we did not advertise for the position. So could you talk to that first?
Sure, I think the date was April 24th. The position was advertised on our school website, in paper in our school, which is legally the minimum you have to do. It was also advertised at K-12 JobSpot, New Jersey School Jobs, New Jersey School Boards Association, and the New Jersey Association of School Business Administrators. And we don't always post on all of those sites because some of them come at a cost, but we felt this was an important enough position that we wanted to hit the realm of education, remembering that the school business administrator does need to have that certification. That's where they look.
Could you tell us maybe part of the process that you followed, since it is your process, maybe how many people applied by the deadline, how many you interviewed, and how many, just a few,
Sure.
I mean,
During
just
the-
so you know, we cannot talk, we cannot give out any personal details to any of the candidates just because it is against the law. We can talk about procedure, but we cannot talk about candidates specifically.
Okay, during that application time period, 15 applications were submitted. We offered first-round interviews, which were conducted by Mr. Marmora and myself. I included Mr. Marmora because he knows the job of the business administrator. He's leaving on good terms, and I knew he cared about the district. So as I said, we offered first-round interviews to 7 applicants. One applicant prior to that interview process did accept a job in another district, so it went down to interviewing 6 applicants. At the end of that first round of interviews, we narrowed it down to 3 applicants. We were specifically looking for people that had some experience in a school business office, and what were they able to speak about. And truthfully, I did some deep diving. I looked at audit reports from their past districts. I looked at their board meetings, if they were live, to see how they interacted with the public and with the Board of Education. And at that point, we moved to a final round of 3 applicants, and that was done with Mr. Marmora, me, and the 3 members of the Finance Committee and President Nichols.
So we did the final 3.
At that time, we did some reference checks, and once we had done those reference checks, we found the applicant that we believed had the best ability to move this district forward.
So then after that, we met with the entire board in closed session to go over it. And we discussed in full the candidate, and the entire board was appraised of everything to do with the candidate. Did we talk about the other candidates also? I
We
don't
did
remember.
not, because at that point, the business administrator hiring process is a two-step process, and I'm not sure if that's the same as it was 9 years ago. So we actually cannot appoint a business administrator until the contract is submitted to the county. So you will see a resolution on the board agenda for the submission of that contract. Now, at that point, there is not a name, and it is an employee number, just like all our leaves are an employee number. So that contract goes to the county. Once the county says, yes, you may move ahead with this hiring, only then can we appoint the person. Prior to submitting that contract, we discussed the candidate in closed session.
Right, yeah, you skipped ahead of me. So in that closed session, though, we discussed, so the entire board was appraised, and everyone was, everyone was, that's what my question was, did we discuss the other two candidates, or no, just the final? We just discussed the final candidate. Okay. So at that point, like Ms. Bozio says, then we had to submit the contract to the county. Do you want to discuss what the state, what has to go through the state at that point? They have to check on what?
So we need to submit their certification. So we have to show that the person has a standard, live, active certification. And we submit a contract that not only has salary, it has all those other pieces of information as well. And then we wait for the county we cannot appoint the individual until the county returns that contract to us.
We also have to run fingerprints, I believe, for the state. Anything
Yes.
else? That's it, right? For the state. That's what's required by the state. Okay, so that has all been approved by the state. So at that point, once the contract is approved by the county, it gets put on our agenda. And generally, we only have one item under personnel, which is F1, which is this whole report with a lot of people. But because we were hiring a VA, we wanted to separate it out. So we had F1 with the candidate's name on the agenda and F2. We don't normally announce people's names because it's just not how it works at a board meeting. We really call resolutions. So if you saw tonight, like Mr. Darian called administrative items A1, A2, and A3. This is just really how it works. It's on the agenda. So his name was on the agenda. There was nothing to be hid. 2 board members voted no. We're an open board, and we don't tell each other how to vote. Everyone is free to do what they want. I will tell you the Finance Committee went into great details with this candidate about all different things. And we, as a board, I will speak for myself, I am extremely comfortable hiring this individual. Do you want to add anything before I keep going for the Finance Committee?
There were extenuating circumstances regarding this hire, but we spent a lot of time with the candidate. We spent a lot of time with our attorney, and we spent a lot of time doing research through references, coworkers, past experiences, and when we got down to the bottom of all that information, we decided to move forward with this particular candidate. We had, as was mentioned earlier, 3 candidates to choose from. It wasn't an easy decision, but at the end of the day, it's important that the business administrator is competent and knows their job, because mistakes usually lead to terminations. When you don't have money, the first to go is staff. And we've been very fortunate as a district for the past, as long as I've been here, over 10 years. We have been very conservative with our finance department, and we've had a few BAs over the years, but we've never really had any major audits or any other problems. And our primary concern in hiring a new individual was skill and reputation. And I can't get into the specifics, unfortunately, because there are a lot of extenuating circumstances that I would love to talk about that I can't and I shouldn't. But after reviewing all the facts, we decided to move forward with this candidate, so.
I do believe things sometimes happen in people's lives, and maybe people do make bad decisions, but I do believe people learn from things, and I do believe in redemption, and I do believe there are extenuating circumstances. I would never think, ever, of hiring somebody that would harm one of our children. I take this very seriously. And let me finish. And what I noticed was from Facebook, I didn't see any parents from our district saying anything. And what I think it shows is that the parents here, and I think a lot of the people that know us board members personally, understand our commitment to the children here. I think they understand Ms. Bozios's commitment, Ms. Hawley's commitment, all of our admins, all of our teachers. Our staff here is phenomenal. They care about our children. I think they understand that Ms. Bozios would never, ever think to put someone in this building that could be a danger to one of our students. It's the only thing, not the only thing. When we have been in closed sessions, people can attest this. We are always about safety. We are always about liability from the board standpoint, and we are always focused on it, always. It is probably our number one thing in this building before education. It is safety for our children. And I find it sad that people would jump to conclusions, that our superintendent would make a recommendation that would in any way harm or put any of our students in harm's way. Because that is the last thing she would do. And if any of us did that, I can assure you, we would resign. And she would not be here. So I know people are unhappy. People read things in papers. Happens all the time. All I can say to you is, me personally, I won't speak for the rest of the board members, but for me personally, I did not take this lightly. I thought about it. I had other conversations with the candidate, and I am 100% confident that he is the right person for the job.
I appreciate you going through the process and describing it. I have to question it, though, when you say you wouldn't put children in harm's way of somebody that would harm them when there's a prior history of harming children. Let me ask you this, and this is statute. You can answer it. It's no privileged information. What would happen to a faculty member, teacher, administrator at this school if they had a DUI or a DWI?
Ms. Bozios, do you know? I'm not sure. I don't think anything. I mean,
No?
there are procedures we have to.
They wouldn't be terminated?
No.
Oh, are you positive of that?
I'm not positive.
Okay.
We would have to ask our attorney.
You should.
I'm not sure.
The other thing, when you're saying extenuating circumstances and people read things in papers, this wasn't conjecture, this wasn't speculation, this is fact, this is things that happened. You can say that it was, it's the finance committee's history of doing things. You can go through the process, you can go through the procedures. Did the Board of Education vote to approve the recommended candidate?
We voted.
Then you are part of that process. You're part of the superintendent's process, you're part of the process writ large. Call it what you want. You're part of the process. You're part of the decision. You made that decision. All of you made that decision that voted yes.
Yes, we did.
And to your comment about parents not commenting, parents not showing up, yeah, because they have to see people on pickup lines, at school activities, neighbors. It's not comfortable. Confrontation's not comfortable. Speaking out against people that you know and that you like, it's not comfortable. Human nature is people don't like confrontation. So I would not reassure yourself that you made the right decision based upon the lack of people in this room and the lack of people voting or commenting on Facebook. A really big part of this is people just feel uncomfortable saying anything, but I can assure you people are talking. I assure you people have formed decisions, formed opinions.
I'll assure you, our parents do complain. I can say that, all right? You do hear complaints. Yes, they do complain when they're not happy. I can tell you, we vetted the process. We have spoken to our attorney. There are extenuating circumstances, and that is all I can say legally. I cannot say anything
Okay,
else.
so could any of this be FOIA'd or OPRA'd as far as candidates, who the references were, how many references were contacted?
I mean, submit whatever you would like, and we'll give it to our attorney. We have nothing to hide. Whatever is legally available, we will give you. I mean, whatever is legal, you're entitled to whatever you are legally. I know you think we're trying to hide something, but we are not.
No, actually, it's not so much that you're trying to hide something. I think really bad decisions were made.
But you don't have- but I will say this.
Excuse me, I think you're a hypocrite if you say you care about children and wouldn't put children in harm's way, yet you have.
But here's the other thing. You don't know the facts that we have. You only have your side. We
You
know
mean
your side.
public record?
You don't know the other side.
So you have material non-public record?
What public record do you have?
Simple. This was a court case.
And
This
what
is
happened? There is no record. You realize the
Oh,
New
so you're
Jersey-
going to tell me because a record was expunged and charges
No.
were reduced, it didn't happen?
No, do you understand though? There's
Oh, I
the-
understand.
The New Jersey state clears employees for employment. We have to go a little bit by the state also.
So the state told you had to make this higher?
No, I'm not gonna comment. All I'm telling you is this candidate is cleared by the state.
Technically, right? Technically cleared by the state.
Not technically.
You just told me you have information that I don't. You have material information. So it's easy to say you have material information that the public doesn't, and you somehow know more than I do, and I'm sure you do. I'm sure you all know more than I do because you have privileged information. So with that privileged information, there's something that's so overarching and so overriding, and you're questioning public record in the courts.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Ms. Bozios has been here, how many years have you been here?
11.
11 years. She has turned this district around. She loves the children in this district. This is why we made her the superintendent. She was a principal for how many years?
9.
9 years. The parents love her, the children love her. She has dedicated her life to this district and to the children in this district. Do you believe Ms. Bozios would do something to put children in harm's way? Because this is basically what she's being accused of.
Well, I don't know why you made your decision, but I don't think it was a good one. Are you able to comment upon how the candidate was submitted?
What does that mean?
How did the candidate come to apply? Was it a referral?
I have no.
We post all our applications on, it's called Apple Track, and that's how it shows up on our website. We take it down when a posting is filled, unless it's an ongoing posting. So I know there were some comments about like some things are still up there.
Right.
It's because we're always hiring sub-custodians, we're always hiring those positions.
Would there be any grounds for a board member to recuse themselves, to not vote?
Are you saying that one of us knew them?
Yeah, would there be any reason, there's anything that would make somebody disqualified from voting? Or that they should raise their hand and say they had
No.
any kind of relationship, possibly a neighbor?
No, they would have to admit that
They would,
and
yeah.
recuse themselves.
Even during an
I
interview
can tell you in
process, they
finance,
have
not
to.
one person knew this person coming in. Not one person.
Thank you. I appreciate you explaining the process. I appreciate you explaining how you think about things. I'm not one person speaking, unfortunately. I'm the person you're hearing now, tonight. I'm not the only one. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for coming. Which one's reading? Not yet.
Is it there? Oh, wow. No,
We've come a long way.
We've come a long way. My one exception to, I don't have to vote on, okay. Sorry. One exception, I don't know the superintendent from anything. I challenge the process. I will produce records if you want them. Back 12 years ago, when Rita was hired, that the Personnel Committee is the committee that interviewed Rita for business administration.
And you're probably right, but things have changed, definitely. But you're probably right, because I was there too. So
all right.
I just don't remember what committees, but I don't not believe you.
All right.
But things have changed.
And the other part is that I don't believe you have to have children in the school district to care about children.
I agree.
All right? 'Cause,
Agreed.
You know, I've been here a number of years, well, 4 years, I believe. I'm a coach at Emerson High School, and you know what? I still love kids, no matter how young, how old, and things like that. I was just challenging the process as to how you got to the end run. I've been on the board with Kathy, with John.
Me.
You know, geez.
You could come back.
Lord. Even Rita. And Rita's been here for ages too.
You can
So
come back.
I trust your judgment. I have no qualms with the judgment. I just have qualms with the process. But if the process changed, the process changed.
I think I think it went more to the finance committee just because people understand finance more on the finance committee. We can ask the questions. We know it's more expected of the business administrator, so we can talk the talk better than the personnel committee. That's all. But
All right.
it still went through the whole thing.
I'm not here anymore. So, okay. Thank you.
No, thanks for coming. Mr. Kern, would you like to say anything? We are happy you came. You should come to more meetings.
No problem. Yeah, I mean, I'm satisfied with the questions, that I asked. It's just that, of course, you have to do your due diligence. You have to make sure that the residents know what's happening within the board. And, I'm glad that you were very forthcoming and also very transparent with your questions as well. It's the thing that we say on our council as well. Transparency is key. So thank you.
And we can get you your info that you requested. It's coming.
Thank you.
Ms. Bozios, I think you wanted to address something different, right?
Well, I became a superintendent because I have a dear love of curriculum, and my background actually is language arts, so thank you for coming to speak today. I know you're very well versed, so you know that the New Jersey State has put out new standards. We will be rewriting our language curriculum. It's not going to happen for September. However, for September, we have also moved foundations to second grade. We trained our teachers this. I realize that's one small piece. We've also, and again, it is just the intervention parts. We have trained staff in Sunday. We have 2 other programs also. That's actually how we used our ESSER funds. So we are moving forward. And Ms. Goggins, to your point, I actually think that's a great idea. So if you let us get through the summer a little bit, and as we can actually get our hands on those new language arts standards, you both bring a lot to the table, and I would love for you to be part of that conversation.
That'd be a good conversation to have, actually. Any other comments? Sure. Yeah, come on.
I think that...
Is a mic on? Just put the mic on.
Yes, sorry. Based on what you said, Mr. Arian, about no one coming to meetings, I came pregnant as soon as I moved
You
here.
come. You come.
But I actually know what you're talking about, right? I'm an educator. I've been a teacher for years. I'm a school administrator. I work in New York. Very different. We don't have this. Mayoral control. I have a superintendent of 45 schools. Not one, 45. This process, when you speak to anybody outside of this building, they don't want to come because they don't know how it works. They're intimidated by approval of A3 through A17. Yep, okay, yes, call all your names. Nobody knows anything, and no one knows how to engage with you. Even myself, I keep saying, I don't understand the school board business. I don't understand the school board business. That is not the education system that I work in. So I think it would behoove the board to invite in a way, how do we engage as a community, whether you have children, and I appreciate you coming because I appreciate that you care about my children because you live in this town. So I think there are ways to engage the community. There are ways to put out there. I don't half the time know what your agenda means versus your minutes and when that's coming. I still don't understand any of it, and I've been coming for 7 years. I happen to know Lena, I'll text her, and so she'll say, okay, I'll find out for you. I think this is a very mysterious process, and I think it's been for years. And I think that the community, the parents, you have a lot of educators. When I came to speak about, just the random vacation, yeah, I'm a 12-month employee. I could take vacation whenever I want. But I know the rest of my staff cannot. Blacklisted days, I know educators in your school that had to take unpaid days to cover the extra random vacation versus put their kids in a camp if that vacation was last week. So I think that, Mr. Darian, I appreciate your laughter because I get it. I understand you're here serving the community hours upon hours upon hours, and people are only going to show up when there's a problem. I think you would have a lot more engagement if people could understand and engage with you in a different way.
Thank you for that. Maybe I'll come to a council meeting, Mr. Kern. You've motivated me.
Absolutely.
Any other public comment? Okay. I do thank everyone for coming. Mr. Falcone, I do appreciate you coming and speaking to us directly, and Mr. Kern and Mike, of course, and everyone that came. Any old or new business? Mrs. Walker?
Just old business. Have we looked into, excuse me, the curtains that we talked about? They're uneven, and it looks like they're hitting the floor now, so.
Mr. Darian thinks that it might actually be the floor that is uneven, so
Well,
I'm gonna.
whatever it is, it's got to be fixed.
Right, I do have someone coming in to look at the floor. A resident said that he would help me out with our
Okay.
immediate scuffing, so maybe when he's here, there's a way to
Right.
look at that, other than putting a marble, which would be my uninformed way to see if it was sloped.
I would think, in my limited sewing experience, it would be a lot cheaper to take the curtain up than it would be to replace the floor. And I'm not on building and grounds.
Did we ever fix a light post outside? Because we got the light post, it was dirty, right? So now you better do the curtains.
So out of the hundreds and hundreds of decisions we had to make with this auditorium, I never thought, the hardest part was the color, right? And we argued over the color of the curtains forever. And
Mr. Walsh lost.
I never thought, and we hired we hired companies that do, theaters in Broadway, right? So, and we had the rigging all redone because it wasn't, up to code. And so I never thought we'd have to address that. So, that the curtains aren't level with the floor, or even with the floor.
The weight,
The
eventually,
gap.
they hang the longer they're up, so they've got to,
All right.
thank you for that.
Any other old or new business? So we actually need to go into a closed session, so if
So
someone would
moved.
like to make, Mrs. Norian made the motion at 8:50. Do I have a second? I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we will be going into closed session for personnel, just personnel item. No student issues, right? Oh, okay, yeah, so legal and personnel. And we will not be coming out and taking any action, so no other action. So thank you for coming.
After all these years, you call me Kathy?